Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. One of my resources says that if you wanted to fabricate the story of Jesus rising from the dead, the last thing you would have done is to present women as the first witnesses of the resurrection. In other words, pretend for a moment that you were the disciples. Jesus was dead, but you wanted to keep the movement alive by telling people he had risen, even though that was false. You would need believable witnesses to tell the story. And again, the last people you would use for that would be women. In the world of that day, no one would have believed a word the women said. Women were not allowed to testify in Jewish courts. Jewish historian Josephus even wrote that the testimony of multiple women was not acceptable because of the levity and boldness of their sex. An early critic of Christianity mocked the idea of Mary Magdalene as an alleged resurrection witness, referring to her as a hysterical female deluded by sorcery. So the fact that the Gospels describe women as discovering the empty tomb is a pointer to the reality of the event. If this were merely legend, they would not have invented women as the first witnesses who were responsible for telling the men. This week we are exploring some of the people on the stage of the Holy Week and Easter events who often fade into the shadows while the spotlight is on Jesus. And today we want to look at the women who went to the tomb early on Easter morning, hoping to complete the rushed job of preparing Jesus for burial, expecting to find a sealed tomb with a stone in front of the door blocking their way. Grieving and wanting to honor their teacher and friend, they made their way to the tomb. Who were these women? The different Gospels offer some differences in the list of names of these women, and I can't settle that argument, so I'm going to tell you what we know about each of them. By far the most well-known is Mary Magdalene. On the west bank of the Sea of Galilee is a town of Magdala, and that is most likely where Mary was from. Mary was a very common name, so they often used where a person was from to specify whom they were talking about. Some traditions say that she was a prostitute, but there is no biblical evidence of that. The Bible does say that Jesus cured her from 7 demons. She very clearly became a follower of Jesus, and she witnessed the crucifixion and death, and was among those women who went to the tomb on Easter morning. She was also the first person to see the risen Jesus and told the other disciples about the resurrection. Another woman who went to the tomb was Joanna, the wife of Chuza. Her husband was the household manager or steward of King Herod, but she at least had become a follower of Jesus and helped financially support his ministry. There was another Mary with them that morning, known as Mary, the wife of Clopas. She was from Galilee, and the best interpretation of the Greek indicates that she was the sister of Mary, the mother of Jesus. It seems that Clopas, her husband, was Joseph's brother, and he married this Mary, meaning that she was Jesus' aunt and making her a sister-in-law to Mary, the mother of Jesus. Even more intriguing, Clopas and Mary had a son named Simeon who assumed leadership of the church in Jerusalem after the first leader, James, was martyred. The final woman who went to the tomb was Salome, and the best evidence indicates that she was from Galilee as well, and was in fact the wife of Zebedee and the mother of the disciples James and John. These are the first witnesses to the resurrection, and we need to be sure to see that the first preachers of the gospel were women. clearly the role isn't limited to men. Overwhelmed and excited, these women were the first to see and the first to tell. May they be an example for what we do. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.